There are moments in your story that look completely ordinary on the outside, but are holy from heaven's point of view. A late walk home, a night drive on an empty road, a hospital hallway at 3 in the morning, a bedroom where you cried until your body didn't have tears left. If someone had taken a picture, it would have just been you. One person, one shadow, one tired soul trying to survive another day. You remember the fear, the weight, the feeling of being exposed to everything, to danger, to darkness, to your own thoughts. You thought, if something happens to me right now, no one even knows where I am. But you were wrong. Someone knew exactly where you were. Someone knew the route you were walking, the street you were crossing, the floor you were sleeping on, the depth of the panic in your chest. And long before your fear arrived, heaven had already sent an answer. Not always in the form of a miracle that split the sky in two, not always in a visible light that shook your room. Sometimes the answer came dressed in quietness, in footsteps you never heard walking beside you, in wings you never saw stretching between you and what wanted to break you, in a presence you couldn't explain that kept you from completely falling apart. You thought you were walking alone. You thought you were driving alone. You thought you were lying on that hospital bed with no one watching, but somewhere in the invisible, an assignment had already been given. Stay with them. Do not leave their side. Block what they cannot see. Hold what they cannot carry. You didn't see an angel that night. You didn't hear a name, feel a feather, or catch a glimpse of light. All you knew was that somehow you made it through a moment you were sure would break you. You called it luck. You called it strength. You called it, I don't even know how I got home. But heaven has another word for it, protection. And behind that protection, there was someone who refused to let you face the dark without backup. Long before you ever felt afraid, a decision had already been made in a place you could not see. Before the night you walked down that empty street, before the trip where the road turned slick, before the argument that pushed you out of the house, before the diagnosis that forced you into hospital corridors, heaven didn't wait for you to panic to start protecting you. While you were still laughing, still planning, still posting, still living like nothing could ever go wrong, someone in the invisible was already receiving instructions with your name on them. Not a vague watch over humanity order, but something personal, specific, deliberate. Stay with this one. They will walk through things they don't yet know are coming. They will face nights that will feel longer than they can handle. They will stand on edges they don't recognize as dangerous. Do not leave them. That's what an assignment is. You were not thrown into this world to fend for yourself against every shadow, every accident, every scheme. Yes, you still live in a broken world. Yes, you still feel fear. Yes, bad things still happen. But woven into your story is a level of protection you don't even have language for, because most of it happens in moments you call nothing. The Bible doesn't flatter us. It says there are forces of darkness, real and active, but it also says that God gives his angels charge over you, commanding them to guard you in all your ways, not because you're powerful, but because you're loved. Think about that. The God who holds galaxies decided that your life, your calling, your tomorrow mattered enough to assign you escorts you cannot see. They are not there to be worshipped. They are not there to make you feel mystical. They are not there to replace God. They are there because God chose to love you in a way that includes backup, hands that can stand where yours cannot reach, eyes that can see what yours cannot detect, strength that does not tire when your body and mind do. So when fear tells you you're alone in this, no one is coming, no one is watching, remember this truth. Heaven was thinking about your safety before you ever felt unsafe. The angel you never saw did not appear in your story the moment the danger showed up. They were already there, waiting at the corner, standing in the hallway, hovering over your bed, walking that street with you. Assigned before your first tear, before your first panic, before your first night of whispering, God, please, don't leave me alone. You were never an afterthought. Your protection was never improvised. It was prepared, in advance. There is a road in your past you rarely talk about. A season that felt like one long hallway with no doors. You woke up tired. You went to sleep exhausted. And in the middle, you carried weights no one truly understood, bills you didn't know how to pay, news from the doctor that made your hands shake, responsibilities on your shoulders that were too heavy for the version of you that had to carry them. People saw you moving, they saw you show up, they saw you smile just enough not to worry them, but they didn't see the moments in between, the way your knees almost gave out in the shower, the way you sat in the car for 10 extra minutes because you didn't have strength to step out. The way you stared at the ceiling at night and whispered, "God, I can't do another day like this." From the outside, it looked like you were handling it. You even told yourself, "I'm stronger than I thought." But if you strip away every unseen hand that held you up in that season, the truth is simple. That road should have broken you. The anxiety alone should have snapped something. The pressure alone should have collapsed you. The confusion alone should have shut your mind down, but it didn't. Yes, you bent. Yes, you cracked. Yes, you had moments where you didn't recognize yourself anymore, but somehow you didn't disintegrate. Somehow you kept moving. Somehow a strength you can't fully explain kept standing back up in you day after day. What if that somehow was not just inner resilience? What if on the days you dragged your feet down that invisible road, there was another set of feet matching your steps? What if on the mornings you said, "I can't," a hand you couldn't see took the weight you didn't know how to lay down? Picture it for a moment. You walking through the hallway of that season, eyes swollen, shoulders heavy, spirit dim. And right beside you, just outside the range of your eyes, an angelic figure walking at your pace, not rushing you, not shaming you for being slow, not rolling their eyes at your weakness, but steady, patient, present, wings stretched just wide enough to shield you from what would have finished you, hands ready to hold you when your chest tightened and your breathing turned shallow. Every time you thought, "I'm going to break," heaven whispered, "Not today." Maybe that's why you can't fully explain how you got through certain conversations without collapsing, why you didn't lose your mind when everything around you was loud with fear, why you didn't slam the door and walk away from everything on the night you were closest to giving up, because you weren't walking alone down that road. You were escorted, guarded, surrounded in ways your eyes couldn't register but your survival testifies to. That season did leave marks. It changed the way you think, the way you love, the way you pray. But if all of hell had truly had free access to you in your weakest moments, you wouldn't just be a little different today. You would be destroyed. The fact that you are still here, still capable of loving, still capable of feeling, still capable of listening to God, is evidence that someone stronger than the storm walked that road with you. Even when you felt abandoned, even when you didn't feel a thing, even when your prayers were just tired sighs in the dark, the angel you never saw was not there to make the road disappear. They were there to make sure the road didn't erase you. So when you look back on that season and say, "I don't know how I survived that," heaven quietly answers, "We do. Because there were hands on you you never felt, eyes on you you never saw, and a presence beside you that would rather fight the dark all night long than let you walk through it unprotected." There was a night when sleep did not feel like rest. It felt like surrender. You remember the ceiling. You remember the darkness. You remember the way the shadows on the wall looked bigger than they really were. Your body was tired, but your mind refused to land. Every worst-case scenario lined up in front of you like soldiers. What if this happens? What if they leave? What if I lose everything? What if I don't wake up? The room was silent, but inside you there was noise. Thick, heavy, relentless noise. You turned to one side, then the other. You checked your phone. You scrolled without seeing. You put it down again. And at some point you realized it wasn't just being awake, it was fear. Fear sitting on the edge of your bed, close enough for you to feel its breath on your thoughts. It whispered lies that sounded like facts. It painted pictures in your imagination that felt more real than the presence of God. You might have even prayed that night, but the words felt thin, like they couldn't reach past the ceiling. You whispered, "Lord, please, just let me rest. I can't keep thinking like this." From your side of the story, nothing changed instantly. The room didn't suddenly fill with light. You didn't hear a trumpet. No booming voice echoed your name. But from heaven's side, things were not still. Orders were given, movement began, and somewhere just beyond what your eyes can see, a figure stepped closer to your bed. Not the image on a painting, not the cartoon from childhood, but an assignment in motion. An angel moving like quiet lightning into the room where your fear had made itself at home. No one heard the footsteps. No one saw the wings stretch out between you and the darkness pressing in. But in the invisible, something shifted. Fear sat on the edge of your bed, but now so did protection. While your thoughts raced in circles, a presence you could not name stood over you, hand extended, not to touch your skin, but to cover your night. The attacks on your mind didn't all vanish, but there were lines they were not allowed to cross. You did not know that some thoughts were stopped before they ever reached you. You did not know that some waves of panic broke against a wall of light before they could drown you. All you knew was that after a while, for reasons you couldn't explain, your breathing slowed, your chest loosened. The heaviness lifted just enough for you to finally close your eyes. You might have thought, "I just wore myself out." Heaven knows better. You didn't fall asleep because fear got tired. You fell asleep because heaven refused to let fear have the last word over your night. Picture that moment again. You, tangled in sheets and thoughts, and beside you, a quiet warrior of light standing guard, not because you earned it, not because you prayed perfectly, but because you are loved by a God who refuses to leave his children unguarded when the dark tries to speak louder than his voice. The night fear sat beside your bed. You were outnumbered in your own room, not by what was against you, but by who was for you. You saw one shadow. Heaven saw an army. And somewhere between your last anxious thought and the first second of real rest, an angel you never saw did exactly what they were sent to do. They stayed. There was a day when everything should have gone wrong. Maybe it was a car that came too fast, a sudden swerve, brakes that screamed, headlights that filled your vision for a split second too long. Or maybe it was something smaller, a heavy object that slipped from a shelf, a step you missed on the stairs, a moment of distraction on a road that didn't forgive mistakes. You remember the sound, the rush, the way time seemed to slow and speed up at the same time. You felt the jolt in your body, the shock in your chest, the electric surge of adrenaline flooding your veins. For a heartbeat you knew, this could be it. And then, it wasn't. Somehow the car stopped in time. Somehow you stumbled but did not fall. Somehow the impact didn't hit you the way it should have. You looked around afterward, eyes wide, hands shaking, heart pounding through your ribs. You said, "That was close. If I had left 1 second earlier, if I had taken that other route, I don't even know how that missed me." You called it luck. The people around you called it luck. But heaven didn't call it luck. Because what you experienced as a near miss had already been fought over long before the moment ever reached your timeline. From your side, it looked like inches. From heaven's side, it was intervention. Imagine the scene from the invisible perspective. You, approaching the intersection, lost in your thoughts, music playing, mind somewhere else. You never saw the other driver's distraction, the slick patch on the road, the moment their attention slipped just enough to turn your path into a threat. But an angel did. They saw the trajectory. They saw the speed. They saw the exact point where two lives were about to collide. And in a span of time too small for your mind to measure, they moved. Maybe your foot pressed the brake a fraction sooner without you knowing why. Maybe your eyes flicked to the side at the perfect second. Maybe their hand twitched on the wheel, shifting the angle just enough to scrape instead of shatter, to shock instead of kill. You'll never fully know. You only know you walked away from what others never walked away from. You know you drove home with your hands still trembling on the steering wheel thinking, "I could have died today." You know you lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, whispering, "God, thank you," not even sure how to frame the words. What you didn't see were the hands of heaven that stepped between you and the full force of what was meant for you. The enemy doesn't just plan thoughts, he plans collisions, moments where 1 second, 1 angle, 1 decision can change everything. But you are not walking through life unescorted. There are assignments on your life that say, "Not today, not this way, not like that." Yes, some hits landed, some impacts reached you, some crashes, emotional or physical, did happen. But there are more stories than you will ever know of angels stepping in so that the worst version of that moment never reached you. The collision that missed you by inches was not just physics. It was a reminder that your story is being fiercely guarded by hands you cannot see, hands that would rather absorb the impact in the invisible than watch you disappear from the visible. So the next time you say, "That was close," let your spirit add a quiet truth. Someone was closer. Closer than the danger. Closer than the impact. Closer than the enemy ever got to your life that day. There is a face in your memory you can't quite place. You don't know their name. You don't know where they live. You wouldn't recognize them if you passed them on the street today. All you remember is that they appeared at the exact moment you had no idea what to do. Your car stopped in the wrong place. Your tire blew out on an empty road. Your bag was stolen in a city that wasn't yours. You were lost, confused, shaking, on the edge of panic, and then, suddenly, someone was just there. They knew what to do before you could even explain. They helped push the car. They jumped your battery. They gave you directions. They stood with you until help arrived. They paid for your ride. They spoke to you with a calm that didn't match the chaos. You felt safe for reasons you couldn't explain. And then, just as quietly as they appeared, they were gone. They didn't stay for thanks. They didn't wait for attention. They didn't ask for your number, your contact, your anything. They just helped and left. Later, you replayed it in your mind. Who were they? Why were they there, right at that moment? How did they know exactly what to do? You might have even joked it was like an angel, and maybe it was. The Bible is not shy about this mystery. It says there are moments when people have entertained angels without knowing it. Not glowing figures with wings open, not halos and harps, not paintings come to life, but help in human form. What if heaven sometimes chooses to dress its warriors in ordinary clothes? Jeans, a uniform, a hoodie, a kind smile. What if the one who stopped to help you was more than just a good person who passed by? What if someone in the invisible saw your fear, saw your vulnerability, saw how exposed you were in that moment, and heaven said, "Send help now." So help came. Not with trumpets, but with jumper cables. Not with a shining sword, but with calm directions. Not with a blazing light, but with a soft, steady voice that said, "It's okay. We'll fix this. You're not alone." And maybe it really was just a good, kind stranger. But ask yourself this: who sent them to pass by that exact street at that exact time with exactly what you needed in their hands? Who timed their steps to cross your crisis at the perfect second so that your story didn't take a different turn? Coincidence can only explain so much. At some point, you have to acknowledge that there is a pattern in how help keeps finding you when you are most helpless. The stranger who showed up exactly when you needed help may never know how much that moment meant to you, but heaven does. And the God who commands angels can just as easily borrow a human voice, a human hand, a human schedule to make sure you are not abandoned in your worst moments. So when you look back and say, "I don't even know who that person was, but without them, I don't know what I would have done," understand, that sentence is not just about them. It's about the one who sent them. An unseen coordination between heaven and earth just to make sure you were not left stranded in the middle of your need. You were not forgotten. You were not invisible. You were noticed, so much so that help was dispatched in the most human-looking way possible. There are days in your life that felt strangely heavy for no obvious reason. Nothing bad happened, no one shouted at you, nothing dramatic broke. And Ainder Asim, from the moment you opened your eyes, it felt like you were walking through glue. Your thoughts felt darker than usual. Your patience was thinner. Your hope felt fragile. Small problems suddenly looked huge. You snapped at people you love. You felt tempted to give up on things you had been faithfully building. You wondered, what is wrong with me today? But what if the real question was never what's wrong with me? What if the real question was, what is happening around me that I cannot see? The Bible doesn't hide this. It says there are battles not against flesh and blood, not against people, but against spiritual forces that move in shadows your eyes cannot penetrate. You don't see the arrows aimed at your mind. You don't see the whispers aimed at your heart. You don't see the traps being set 3 steps ahead of your day. You just feel the pressure. You feel the sudden urge to quit, to isolate, to scroll yourself numb, to go back to things God already pulled you out of. From your perspective, it looks like a bad mood. From heaven's perspective, it looks like war, but you were not sent into that war unarmed or unguarded, because just as there are forces that want to pull you down, there are also forces assigned to keep you standing. Picture it for a moment, you sitting at a table, phone in hand, eyes tired, thoughts spiraling. No one around you knows that you are one intrusive thought away from making a decision you can't take back. But in the unseen realm, you are not sitting at that table alone. Around you there is movement, not of people but of presence. An angel steps closer as the pressure rises. Another shifts position between you and what is being sent against your mind. Arrows of accusation, discouragement, self-hatred, despair are flying toward you, not as physical objects, but as thoughts that feel so much like your own voice you don't recognize that they are not. And there, in a silence you cannot hear, something slams into a shield you did not know existed. What should have pierced you stops short. What should have broken you is reduced to a passing heaviness. What should have pushed you over the edge becomes just a bad day. You have no idea how many bad days were almost final days. Days when an unseen battle around your life was more intense than anything you have ever watched in a movie. Blows exchanged over your future. Strikes taken on your behalf. Waves of darkness rolling in, only to break against walls of light you never saw but constantly benefited from. Sometimes you felt it physically. A sudden urge to pray without knowing why. A song that came into your mind out of nowhere. A verse that popped up at the exact moment you needed it. Those were not random. They were responses to a war you were not fully aware of. Heaven doesn't just fight for you when you are on your knees. Heaven fights for you when you are too tired to kneel. On the days you can barely whisper, "Help," angels are still moving, still blocking, still standing, still taking positions around you, because your life is worth more than the sum of your feelings in a single heavy afternoon. The battle around you that you never saw is the reason you're still here to watch this now. If the enemy had been allowed to do everything he planned against your mind, your relationships, your health, your purpose, you would not just be a bit discouraged. You would be gone. The fact that you are not means someone has been taking hits in realms you cannot see, just to make sure you wake up again tomorrow. You may feel weak. You may feel tired. You may feel like giving up. But you are not uncovered. The God who assigned angels to your life did not remove them just because you had a bad week. They are still there, still watching, still fighting, still surrounding the fragile places you don't know how to protect on your own. There is a prayer you don't talk about much anymore. You prayed it honestly. You prayed it with tears. You prayed it with your whole heart laid open in front of God. You weren't playing religious games. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You were desperate. You said, "Lord, please do something, change this, stop this, open this door, close that one, answer me." And then nothing. No text from heaven, no sudden sign, no instant relief. The situation didn't flip overnight. The person didn't change. The problem didn't dissolve. So you quietly decided, maybe God didn't hear me. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe I'm not spiritual enough. Maybe my prayers don't work. But what if you were wrong? What if at the very moment you thought your prayer hit the ceiling and fell, it actually set something in motion you couldn't see? Scripture shows us this mystery. A man prays, and from the first day his words are heard in heaven. But the answer is delayed by a battle in the unseen realm. An angel is sent to bring the response, and on the way he is resisted, stopped, opposed, fought against. The man on earth only feels silence. But in the invisible there is movement, there is warfare, there is an angel struggling his way through opposition just to reach the person who thinks God has gone quiet. What if your story has looked like that more times than you realize? You prayed, heaven heard, God moved. Not always by snapping his fingers, but by sending instructions, assignments, angels. While you sat there saying, nothing is happening, something was happening over your head, paths being shifted, people being positioned, attacks being blocked, doors being prepared for the right time, not just the fast time. Angels do not just guard, they also carry strength, carry answers, carry protection to places your feet cannot reach. So when you whispered that prayer with shaking hands, you weren't throwing words into a void. You were sending a signal into a kingdom that does not ignore the cry of the broken. Your tears were not invisible ink. Your amen did not get lost in the noise of the world. Some of what you asked God said no to, because his mercy sometimes looks like denial. But some of what you asked, he said yes to, and then sent angels to guard the process between your request and the moment it shows up in your timeline. You only measure his faithfulness by what you see. Heaven measures it by everything you never had to see. The attack that turned away, the trap that never closed, the door that didn't open because it would have crushed you, the delay that positioned you so you wouldn't miss the real answer when it finally came. The prayer you thought God ignored may be the very prayer that armed angels around your life in ways you won't understand until much later. So no, your words were not wasted. Your faith was not pointless. Your late-night whisper was not background noise. It was heard. It was recorded. It was answered, sometimes with wait, sometimes with no, sometimes with not like that, but never with indifference. And while you sat in the silence, an angel you never saw may have been fighting his way through a darkness you never met, just to deliver the strength you are using right now to keep believing one more day. There are moments in your story you don't like to revisit, not because something hit your body, but because something hit your soul so hard you were sure you would never be the same again. The breakup that felt like losing the future, the betrayal that shattered your trust, the loss that ripped a piece of your heart out, the disappointment that turned your hope into dust in your hands. You remember the exact day, the exact message, the exact phone call, the exact silence on the other side that told you everything had changed. You didn't fall to the floor, but something inside you did. Your appetite left, your laughter left, your colors dimmed. You looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the eyes staring back. You said things like, "This broke me. I'll never be the same after this. Something in me died today." And in a way, you weren't wrong. Something did die. Illusions, naive expectations, old versions of yourself that didn't know pain yet. But there is a difference between something in you dying and you dying on the inside. If the enemy had had full access to your heart in those moments, you wouldn't just have scars, you would be empty. You wouldn't just be cautious now, you'd be stone. No more ability to trust, no more ability to love, no more ability to believe anything good could ever be real again. Yet somehow, even after all that happened, there is still a softness in you. Not the same naive softness, but a tenderness that refuses to turn into pure cynicism. You still care, you still feel, you still want to love and be loved. Why? Because the day your heart broke, you were not the only one in the room. Picture that memory you hate to replay. You holding the phone, reading the message, hearing the news, feeling the world tilt. Your knees didn't literally give out, but in your spirit, you were falling. And as you fell inward, you landed on something you did not see, an arm, a presence, a cushion of mercy spread underneath your breaking point. While part of you shattered, another part of you was being wrapped, held, covered, protected from complete collapse. You thought you were alone on that bedroom floor, that bathroom stall, that kitchen chair where you stared at nothing. But heaven saw an entirely different picture. An angel kneeling beside the wreckage of your emotions, not rushing you, not telling you to get over it, not minimizing your pain, just being there, hand over the pieces of your heart, shielding them from the hands of darkness that would have loved to twist that moment into permanent bitterness, permanent hatred, permanent numbness. There are things you should not have recovered from, words that should have poisoned you permanently, abandonments that should have paralyzed your ability to attach, losses that should have turned you into a walking shell. And yet, here you are, still capable of crying when something touches you, still capable of smiling when something is beautiful, still capable of being moved by God's presence. That is not because the pain was small, it's because the protection over your inner life was great. You didn't see the hands that held your mind when intrusive thoughts tried to push you into dangerous places. You didn't see the shield that stood between your broken heart and the whispers saying, harden, hate, never trust again. You didn't see the light that refused to let your inner world go completely dark, even on nights where you turned off every external lamp and said, I don't care anymore. Heaven cared, and the God who assigned angels to guard your body also assigned them to guard your soul, your ability to feel Him, your ability to respond, your ability to believe that not every chapter will hurt like this. The times you should have died inside but didn't are proof that someone stronger than your pain stood between you and the kind of damage you would never walk back from. So yes, you are different now, but you are still alive inside. And that inner life is not an accident. It is protected, it is guarded, it is watched over by eyes that do not sleep, who will not allow every blow that reaches you to define you, own you, or erase you. One day, when all of this is over, and you finally see your story from heaven's side, you will be shocked by how crowded your loneliest moments really were. You will see hospital rooms that looked empty, full of light. You will see dark roads you walked at night with at least one figure always a step ahead of you. You will see bedrooms where you cried alone with an angel sitting on the floor, back against the wall, refusing to leave until your breathing calmed. You will see intersections frozen in time, cars inches away from your body, with wings spread wide between you and what was meant to erase your name from this world. You will see battlefields you never knew you were on, invisible wars fought over your mind, your calling, your future, your next breath. And in all of them, you will notice a pattern. You were never, not for a single second, unprotected. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, you were disappointed. Yes, things happened to you that God never delighted in, but there is a long list of things that never touched you, never reached you, never found you. Because every time hell tried to step closer, someone stronger stepped in the way. The angel you never saw was never the main character of your story. They were the reflection of a greater love, the love of a God who refused to watch you walk through this world without backup. A God who cared so much about your Tuesday mornings, your Thursday nights, your ordinary commutes, your crowded thoughts, that He wrote protection into the script of your life before you ever spoke your first word. You didn't earn it. You didn't even always believe in it, but you benefited from it every single day you didn't die, every single night you made it home, every single breakdown you came back from. So tonight, before you sleep, take a moment, breathe in slowly, let your shoulders drop, and instead of just saying, God be with me, whisper something deeper. God, thank you for every time you were with me when I had no idea. Thank you for the angels I never saw, the accidents that never happened, the battles I never had to fight because you fought them for me. Teach me to live with this awareness, not afraid of the dark, but confident in the one who walks with me through it. You are not weak for needing protection. You are not childish for believing in angels. You are simply aware of a truth most people spend their whole lives trying to ignore. You were never meant to carry this life alone. The God who sent angels to stand beside you in silence is the same God who now calls you closer to his heart, not just to survive, but to walk awake, grateful and aware that every step you take is wrapped in a care you will spend eternity discovering. If this found you right when you needed reminding that you are not alone, stay with us here on Divine Frequency, where every film is a quiet reminder that heaven has been closer to your story than you ever thought. Subscribe, stay close, and walk into your next day knowing you may not see them, but you are surrounded.